Have you ever had a Google rep reach out to you? Maybe you got super excited. You're going to get some insider knowledge, help from an actual Google employee, and then you find out, well, they're not actually a Google employee. They have a Google email address, but they're contracted from another company. And then you find out they've only really been working for this company for about 2 years, and they haven't actually run Google campaigns before themselves. And so you listen to what they have to say, and there's a lot of recommendations, best practices proven by Google. So we're going to talk about those and if you should listen or not. So a major recommendation that a Google rep is going to give you is going to come down to what Google provides in their recommendations tabs. They are going to go so far as to say you should auto apply these recommendations because Google's going to recommend it. It's based on their software. And so don't even, give them a chance to say no. You might forget to check it. So just auto implement it. It's a really bad idea. I've actually, even though I know better, I've even used the auto apply feature and it really messed up my campaigns. So one thing that was used was a target CPA bid adjustment. It would auto apply it. My CPA went way up because Google kept raising it and it was a nightmare. So I really don't recommend the auto apply. Sometimes Google reps will make you, and it could be true, if you don't comply with their minimum requirements for auto apply and their other recommendations, then you could fall out of support, which is a bummer. But the reality is you don't entirely need support. It's just, when something becomes disapproved or you need a refund or something like that, when access to a Google rep can be very beneficial. You need to be whitelisted for something, a beta is out that you want to be using, something like that. But overall, I would say that I have been let down more times, probably most times, by listening to a Google rep than just by trusting what I know to be true based on my own experience of managing campaigns. So just always keep that in mind, especially if you're meeting with a Google rep. It's free support, right? Well, something's paying for that support, and it's because they're really doing Google's bidding, and Google makes money when you spend money on clicks, when you increase your budgets. So that's where all that motivation comes from, right? So you just want to take everything that they have to say with a grain of salt. Now, I've worked with lots and lots of Google reps over the years. Lots of them are really smart and really good, and they find things that I didn't see, and they help me with conversion tracking or something like that, or getting me a meeting with a technical implementation specialist or a product specialist. That's all great. But all in all, if you're meeting with a Google rep, they are serving Google, not you. So you just want to keep that in mind. Now, in general, this also applies to recommendations from Google that aren't from a person. So when you log into your account, you're going to have these recommendations and this optimization score, and maybe it's like at 60% or something terrible. And so you go and you check out all these recommendations that Google's giving you. Well, they're also going to be self-serving in those recommendations as well. They're going to want you to turn on broad match, turn on display expansion, all things that are going to waste your money in probably 90% of cases. I never turn on display expansion. I think if you're going to run display, you should put that in a separate campaign, separate ads, separate tracking, separate reporting. The only reason to turn on display expansion is if you have a budget that has to be spent and you don't care where it goes, it just has to be spent on eyeballs, you'll get eyeballs. But otherwise, if you're trying to generate results at a low cost, then you do not want to use display expansion, and that will be recommended a lot of the times. It's also going to give you some recommendations on making your campaigns easier to manage, removing duplicate keywords or unnecessary keywords, and so forth. And so I just review them manually myself, and I dismiss probably 80% of the recommendations that I'm given. Here's another big tip. So when Google recommends changing a bidding strategy, you probably don't have the necessary budget to be able to use that bidding strategy, such as a target CPA, and it's going to recommend that you do it anyway. So you can totally mess up your results. You're going to lose a lot of time, a lot of money if things go awry. So I highly advise you not to use a Google recommendation to change a bidding strategy, such as using target CPA. You're probably watching this saying, I already did that. And so if that's the case, I'd love to know, how did it work out for you? Was everything okay? Did things tank? I'd love to hear that. But typically you need like a 10x budget of your average cost per conversion to use a target CPA. At a minimum 2 to 4 times, right? So if you don't have that, if your average cost per lead is $100 and your budget's $50, you are far, far away from that. So why would you use a target CPA? It doesn't make sense, but Google's gonna recommend it. So if that happened to you, please comment below because I'd love to hear about it. All right, so that's my vent on Google Reps. Let me know your experiences, if you've had good experiences, bad experiences. If you've had any horror stories, that would be interesting to read. So please leave those below. And yeah, always just approach recommendations, whether they're automated or from a Google Rep, with a healthy bit of skepticism, a big grain of salt, and you should do really well. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks for sticking around, and I will see you on the next video.